Hello everyone, you're watching Artūro Media podcast, and this is the double first time. So this is my first podcast in English. We'll see how it goes. None of us are native English speakers. And also this is the first installment of 550. We have 5 shots of 50 degrees warm drink. And as we go through the topics, we'll go shot by shot. You ready?
Sure, let's do this.
So today we have a special guest, Robertas. He has, in my opinion, exceptional personality. Not like personality in YouTube personality or Instagram person, but as a person, I think you are very unique and you have a lot to share. So, as the show implies, we have 5 shots and we can start off one by one. And we will see where this will take us.
Cheers.
Cheers to all of you. So,
This reminds me of a song, Irish Honey.
so this is traditional Lithuanian drinking, it's
Yeah.
from honey. It's quite sweet. And we will see how much that sweetness will bite us.
Probably more in the morning.
Well, nice still young.
Yeah.
So, starting off, for the person that you are, I think we can discuss some topics of the world, basically, of the humanity of people, which are you and me. And
I'm led to believe, yes.
and there's a lot of things that we take for granted, that we don't recognize enough. There are things that we, as a society, accept, which sometimes is okay, sometimes not. We have a lot of controversial topics: abortion, religion, politician, and all of these things from the bottom to the top. So I think the first things I would like to speak with you, maybe ask your opinion on it, would be that there's a lot of things that we took as a group as a normal. And we spoke a little bit before podcast, like getting late, not responding to text messages, not respecting other time, promising something and not keeping the word. And for some people that's like normal. That becomes the standard as their live.
Yeah.
Like they just make up excuses. Sometimes they don't even make an excuse, they just let it slide.
Yes.
They promise things. As I said with text messages, I think we simply devalued messages, like instant messages, SMS, through Messenger, anything. Because we can get like 10, 15 messages a day and we just don't care. Back in the day, if you would get a post, a mail, that would be important, right? But with all these things devaluing our certain things, like messages, keeping our word and everything, what's your take on the society of ours that we live in 21st century? What do you think we devalued the most in people, basically?
I don't think it's devaluing of people. You mentioned people that are late constantly as a trait of personality, even. I don't think it got anything to do with text messages as you specified. I think it's a lack of direct reactions from one's own actions.
Yes.
For example, there was a time in our own city where you dared not to cross in a foreign neighborhood.
Yes.
Direct reaction, right? There's none of that no more. So my phone went beeped, who cares, basically? Unless there's another person talking to you over the phone, you don't care. It's not human. And this politically correct route that people embarked upon led them into a path of not apathy, that's the incorrect word, but complacency, I'd say.
Yeah.
And I would divorce tech and texts and all of that from the psychological, call it ailment, that we as a whole, as a society, possess. It's not just text messages. It's shouting at people through car windows.
Yeah, everything
and
basically.
all of that. Yeah. I believe it's a psychological element.
So, like, I follow like Dan Pina. I don't think if you know, but he's multimillionaire and he has really tough attitude towards the younger generation.
Most of them do.
Yeah, but he's a tough nut. He achieved a lot of wealth. He killed Kodiak bear with a knife. He was charged with buffalo and then got beat down, chased it back, killed it. He's like a tough person. And he does mentoring for millionaires, for businesses, for people, basically. And if you ask him, people are really soft these days, like completely soft. And he takes it like, I remember one example, which we can discuss a little bit more. He has a snowflake test. People who come to him for coaching.
Snowflake.
Yeah. And his mentality is, the snowflake is the person who melts under pressure. I think it's really accurate. And one of the questions of the test is, let's just say you're walking with your mother or your wife, and someone spits in her face. What do you do? So back in his day, that motherfucker would be dead. That's
sort of the
that's the mentality he grew up in which he is. But nowadays there's various answers, and answers vary to. I would ask that person what kind of day he was having, and maybe if he had a bad day, I will try to reiterate or something. So from biological standpoint, as a man, we can speak a little bit more about that. We are getting less manly. Do you agree or not?
I don't think we are getting less manly. I think specifically our generation of men is a generation of men raised by women, because men like the millionaire who spoke of, I know not of him, his generation, call it squandered resources, right? And younger men, such as ourselves, ended up holding the pay stub, right? And through that, the learned behavior of passivity, perhaps, was ingrained in us, right?
You put it quite nicely, the passivity.
Well, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Sure, somebody spits in the face of my wife while we're walking down the street, right? In his day, you could kill the mother, kill the man, right?
Yeah.
And more likely than not, no security cameras, no 200 people with smartphones, right? You can get away with it relatively easily. Now, it takes a tad bit more intent to pull off a murder and evade prosecution for it. You need to be of a certain mindset, right? You need to follow him somewhere else where you could do so. Sun Tzu, The Art of War, right? Pick your battles. What we as men need to do is that will bring back, I'm not saying we need to start killing people, that would bring back direct consequences, right?
Yes.
Don't kill the man, don't beat him up, do follow him home. And stalking isn't probably the best thing to advertise either.
But the main thing is the direct.
There must be direct consequences.
Well, people get confused, I think, about it a lot. There's
consequences. Don't know what consequences are.
But there are.
No, there aren't. I was today, while I was going home from work, I was shouted at by a bus driver because I passed a pedestrian crossing with no traffic light on it, because he slowed down enough for me to walk past. And he was displeased with it. And he started shouting at me. I'm not even aware what he was shouting at me. I was wearing earbuds, right? Why are you shouting at me? What you gonna do? I don't need to take any action and you will just go away. That's the problem, right? He gets a sense of power and masculinity.
Like he did something.
Yeah. Over nothing of consequence. If you're so displeased, leave the bus and kick my ass, or at least like get in my face and tell me something stern, right? He did nothing. That's the symptom of the problem we're tackling here, right? Same as texts. It's still a symptom, it's not the cause.
Yeah.
manipulate the judicial system to your own will, right?
Yeah.
Murder, extreme examples are brighter and easier to talk about, right? Now you need to think about more things to do so, right? So what happens is people assume it will never ever happen, so I can bark like a little peep-squeak of a dog and it's fine. Thing is, there are still dangerous men around, and the dangerous men around are the nice men because they don't shout at people, right? They don't spit at people's wives' faces and whatnot because they're truly dangerous. They know their worth,
Yeah.
and they act accordingly. The one that does not needs to prove it every time. Oh, I found a little self-worth there, so I better utilize it now because in a moment it's gone.
Yeah, so I mentioned biologically.
Yes.
And I think I heard this from Dan Pina in itself, but there was a study done in 1980s, I think, and then repeated at 2000 something, probably. I don't remember the dates, and I don't remember the numbers correctly, but the point is that the man's average handshake pressure, measured by nanometers, was, I think, by the third less after 30 years.
Yeah.
The handshake of a woman got tougher by the third
Yes.
in 30 years.
Yes.
Sperm counts are down quite dramatically. Testosterone levels are down.
I don't think this is an accurate topic for us to delve into, but carry on.
But what do you think? Do you think these, like we talked about social things,
Yes.
right? So you get used
It's
to...
also psychology, but yes.
Yeah, so like social things that we get used to, that you can shout and no one will respond.
Yes.
You can curse at someone and they won't go into nothing, right?
Yeah.
So those are all like socially things that we inherited through psychology. But how much do you think biology plays role in that? Or does it even do anything?
It's not like the biology changed. Men are still men and women are still women. Men still possess more testosterone to
Well, yes.
be expendable. We are meant to protect the ones that cannot protect themselves and die in the process.
Yeah.
That is our purpose, right?
Yeah.
Some more than others, still a blanket statement, that is it, right? So nothing really changed. We just learned to enjoy the superficial comforts of our world too much.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, the big, mean, scary world is still out there. Just cut the power to the city, see what happens.
I think you saw the same George Carlin stand-up, right? About electricity?
Probably, but I do delve upon such topics probably a tad bit too often.
Yeah. But I really enjoyed this George Carlin idea that we're barely out of the jungle. We're just semi-cultural animals
Yes,
that
with
learn...
baseball caps and automatic weapons.
Exactly. And so we don't really feel that. And most people that, like, I grew up in the countryside.
Yeah.
We do farming, I do hunting, and like you get sense of that life, that worldliness, that life beyond the city.
And I am a pure city boy. Nothing else in my family, just city.
So what do you think depends more on the mindset of the world and dangers upon it? Because you grew up, like, let's just say in the city, right?
Yes.
So most of the food, basically all of the food, comes from supermarket.
Oh, up until probably like 14, stories of like elderly folk growing their own potatoes and growing their own pigs and such was a fantasy. I am not joking. Like for me, burgers came out of McDonald's.
Yeah.
That was the truth. And you're supposed to produce a thing called money to get it. It's not a pig, it's not crops that you grow and then process to cook into bread. It's none of that. Literally, I had to explore other avenues to like shore up the gaps that I had. Could be a tad humorous as I say it out loud, but that's the fact. Right?
Well, it's information, basically.
Yes,
Well, I grew up where...
with different set
Yeah.
of it.
So basically there was hunting, my father was hunting, he would bring back the animal,
Yeah.
we would skin it. I knew all of the organs before,
Yeah.
before the school. And these things come natural. That's
Yeah.
the information I received. So you just received a different set of information.
Yeah, and nowadays, usually men in their early 30s don't suddenly go into bushcraft and hunting and all of that. They go into business and raising families and all of that. The plan of life that I've built for myself is so I may have all of that instead of RVs or yachts or whatever else.
Really enjoyed, I don't know from what speech or from what person, but if we would really consider, do we really need an RVs, a yacht or something, you would come to the conclusion that you don't.
It's a dangerous slope we're walking on here. We
Yeah,
don't need
so
many
it's-
things.
Well, I know we need another shot. That's what we need.
Change the topic, change the shot, yes.
Not really. We can stay on the same topic, but as the time clicks,
Fair enough.
let's finish from
Cheers.
podcast 550. Second 50. And how's the drink treating
I
you?
do enjoy the taste of it. It's more potent than vodka by 10 degrees. I do enjoy the taste though.
I usually drink brandy.
Yeah.
That's
Cognac
my
or brandy.
brandy, like Torres. I like 38 degrees, something a little bit less, but I like it because it has some taste
Yes.
and it doesn't have that much bite. Like I don't like Jack
Neither do I.
because it has a lot of bite to it. But like Torres 10, Torres 15,
Yeah.
it has that sweet, a little bit like camouflage taste.
Yeah.
And enjoy that. But this also works in a similar tasty manner.
I enjoy gins specifically for the bite.
Interesting.
The bitterness of it. I like a thing to be a thing. If I'm drinking alcohol, I'd like to notice it's alcohol. If I'm drinking water, I want it not flavored. I want it to taste like water, right?
So is it similar with people?
Absolutely.
Do you like people with a little bit bite to it, with a little bit character, or like, well, as you give an example with water, maybe in some places you like simple people and some with bite or not?
Concerning people, I don't think there's a thing as a bite or not. It's either truthful or not, and what I cannot stand is not truthful.
Yeah, I can agree on you on that.
There's nothing even to elaborate upon the topic. If you aren't truthful, you're useless entirely. There's nothing to be done with you. You cannot help anyone, you cannot protect anyone, you cannot solve problems under pressure, because what you are is a lie. And I enjoy people that are honest, be it I don't like the person, right?
Yeah.
Be it...
But you know who they are.
Yeah, and I can utilize the person. For example, I know he may want something of me specifically. For example, a certain level of productivity for him to be pleased to work with me, right? And I know him, the reference may come off as funny. He shouts a lot and everybody thinks he's mean. But he's really not. He's just loud.
Yeah.
And he's good at what he does. So find an avenue to please him, produce a certain productivity level, and then suddenly he turns so useful, you need no one else.
Yeah. I really enjoyed one person's idea that when he said people have to do something.
Yeah.
When you meet someone and they don't do nothing. They don't date, they don't work, they don't drink, they do nothing. How long do you like those people? You don't.
I'm not a particularly sociable person, and I'm probably not a good partner for this strain of dialogue.
But that's basically the same.
Yes.
You meet person that has nothing, basically.
Yeah.
He's a skeleton that's walking
He's
around.
barely human.
Yeah.
What do you do? Pay taxes.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Biological thing that moves around. And it has nothing inside. You can, well,
A cat is at least pleasant.
yeah, you can pet a cat.
Yeah.
So cat has a purpose, and that thing has
It has a
basically
purpose.
to survive.
Well,
basically.
everybody's purpose is the same, to not die, right?
Yeah.
But a cat has a purpose. It works on instinct. So whatever it does, is pure.
Yeah.
That's why I like cats so much. I do have 2 of them at my home. Both boys, both brothers, they fight amongst themselves.
Natural.
I don't have a scratch on me. I never clip their nails. Because they know, by fighting with one another, they know what hurts and what doesn't, right? There's a direct reaction. Hey, don't bite brother this hard because that hurts. So when they come to me, they don't bite. They want a specific thing from me, either pets or food or what have you. But they know if they start purring and rubbing on me, I'll probably pick them up and feed them.
So basically educated cats, more than some people. Would you go that far?
Just because I try to be as honest as possible and they do the same. There's no lies, there's no misinterpretation. Interpretation of speech is not a good thing. Accuracy of speech is a good thing.
Yeah.
Be it it's not particularly pleasant, sure.
It should. Okay, so we had this thing like mixed up with all cancer culture and everything. So if you get offended at someone, that's like new rules that you can shout at people, you can cancel person that just that you got offended.
Yeah.
Someone has to take a blame and they should correct themselves because you don't feel okay with it. What do you feel about that, all the cancer culture and what we have now, that if I disagree with you, you should shut up, you should go off social media, you should get fired or something. Mm-hmm. What do you take of it?
I don't think there's such a thing as counterculture. What's counterculture? Rock and roll is bad guys. I consider myself to be a rock and roll fan. I consider myself to be the one that's quote unquote the bad guy considered by the norm. That's my purpose in life. I create waves, right? I've been called by a man.
Can we ask a little bit quiet?
Yeah. I've been called by one man specifically, agent of chaos, he called me. And he portrayed it as a positive thing. Because there cannot be light without the dark, right?
With all the order, there's chaos.
I don't think it's a good parallel, but yes. What I produce is the questioning.
Yeah.
Should you really shout at a person? Should you really spit in someone's face? There's no direct consequences. Well, I'm the consequences. I'm willing to go to jail or die for what others may think as silly things. I don't think they're silly. Not at all.
It depends on your point of view. So,
of course,
when you say silly, I would put like little things, not silly things, like disrespect, like even in the slightest
I don't think disrespect is a little thing. In Germany, I still believe that there's an active law if you assault somebody's honor. Interpret that as you may. You may take mortal action, meaning kill the man. And I think it's excellent. I really don't think anybody utilized this specific law, but at least it was there, probably still is. I think it's a good thing, and again, on a humorous note, I think that judicial mortal combat is an excellent thing. Like, we have these pseudo criminals that fancy themselves to be rap gangsters and whatnot, and they bully people specifically that don't feel that they have any power, so they may be bullied, they may be manipulated, right? Suddenly, those little inconveniences, I don't even call them criminals, fade away like those snowflakes you've mentioned when they are confronted with someone like me. I'm willing to die right here in the park. Let's go. And he is not. What does he do? Nothing. Call the cops. Criminal calls the cops, really.
So I think that's the main topic that we circle around back, and before we spoke and behind the scenes and everything, that we spoke but don't take words for granted. We act but we don't face the consequences.
True.
And we get used to it. Like with everything. Like I really enjoyed the Jordan Peterson speech he talked with Joe Rogan. I think that the person was a good person all along, and bam, he's in he's in the bad place. And how did that happen? Simply, like he said, I push you a little bit further than you should go,
Yeah.
before you crack, before you ride, and then I stop, and then you don't do nothing.
Yes.
And then I push you a little bit more until the
Yes.
point, and then I get back, and you do nothing.
Yes.
And step by step, you can go far away.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So I think it's all same with the government, with our politicians. We get like, there was money wasted on one mayor
Oh, yeah.
that bought a statue for several thousand, and it's simple.
Yes.
And I go that, yeah, that's how it is. And people are outraged, like, how could it be like that? That's how it works. That's the normative that it works on. But it's just, for me, shows the fuck you to the public a little bit.
Yes.
And fuck you, and you don't respond, you don't try it, I'm still in the same place. And a little bit more fuck you. And then we get a little bit angry, we shout on the Facebook, the comments or something, but
Yes.
real nothing happens.
Yes.
And then they go another step, another step, another step. And step by step, where we will be in 5 to 10 years.
I do not consider myself to be a pessimist. I think we will be in a better place. People change. We talk, right? I'm a relatively young man, right?
Yeah.
And yet I grew up in the same, call it, garden as thousands of weak men. If I may be considered a strong man. It's a question of opinion, right? But I grew up the same, and yet I came out different.
Yeah.
So it's still possible, and we still talk about it, and more people talk about it every day. So I'm convinced the end result will still be positive.
You mentioned weak men and hard men, strong men. And I think that will be a great start for us to come back after this break. Okay, so we're back, and I have an idea for you to evaluate. But first, we need to evaluate the third shot. What do you think?
Let's get on it.
350.
Just
So, there are different variations of the story. And I will say in most simplistic version of it. So basically, hard men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create bad times create hard men. What's your opinion on it?
I think a concept of times is subjective.
Yeah. Because
And-
we can say we are living good times.
I don't think hunter-gatherers were weak, nor did they have times.
Yeah,
It's a
you can
social
say so.
construct.
Yeah.
It's justification of one's weakness and why am I weak and why he's not. There's no excuse. Everybody's supposed to be strong as possible. Why? Because you're supposed to strive towards greatness. Excellence is a habit.
Yeah, but if you grow up in, let's just say, like in that construct, in good environment.
I think I grew up in a rather good environment. I
Let's-
wasn't beaten. My father was.
Was you handed everything you needed?
I'd say so, yes.
And-
Everything I wanted, every toy, everything.
Okay, so what was the spark to ignite that I need to strive for more?
Same people that handed me everything.
So they just basically pushed you up.
Well, I was told I may have everything, just evaluate why do you want this. There's supposed to be a reason. For example, I have a story, right? As a little boy, I don't know, maybe I was 10 perhaps. At a toy store, there was a plastic replica, chromed, very pretty, of a 17th century sword.
Yeah.
And I really wanted it. Thing wasn't cheap. And yet I came up with my father and said, hey, I really want this. Okay, here you go. Bought it, no questions asked, just because I want so, right? But then, in the same fashion, I want, I get. The family needs, I give, right? Chores need to be done. I don't go, oh, I don't want to. A thing needs to be solved, a problem. Parents cannot solve it because they're at work. My sister cannot solve it because she's at school. I'm the only one. The problem needs to get solved. Well, guess what? I'm solving it. There was never a detachment for me. My father, specifically him, pushed me from an early age into philosophy and thinking for oneself.
Yes.
And why do you need to think at all? Because the sort of thinking most people do isn't the sort of thinking I'm talking about. Thinking so you may better your own person sort of a thinking, right? And when you get handed that pill and you get a taste of it, you don't need to be convinced to get more. You want more by yourself.
Yeah.
And that snowball escalates.
So I think that was the strong points from your parents.
Yes.
Me and my roommate, when I used to study in one school, we came to the conclusion, like you can say, ideas that basically our parents grow up with very little. Russian occupation,
Yeah.
they didn't have a lot, there was lines for food, there wasn't a lot of clothes. When someone bought clothes in like a city, it's like 5 other people had the same clothes. And they grew up in a place where there was basically money,
Yeah.
but there wasn't what to buy.
Yeah.
And when they see our generation, when they have kids, they want to give their kids what they didn't have. And what we came across that giving a kid a lot is not giving everything basically to a kid. It's not healthy. They're just giving what they didn't have, anything that how my kid will be happy. I didn't have all of those things and I will support him. I will give these things and he will be happy.
I don't think it's support. I think it's burdening your child with your own inabilities to cope with the world.
That's
I didn't have
interesting,
it,
yes.
I want
Yeah.
it, so you take it.
Yeah.
And you burden the child with it. My father, I said he was beaten. I was not. I was never touched in my life. Never, like, nothing more than a stern word. Nothing. He was beaten regularly. And, like, the sort of beaten that no child should ever get from his own father. And his father was a weak person. So he paid for his own faults with the kid.
Yeah.
So my father vouched never to do so. But he was thoughtful enough to explain why. So now I know I wasn't beaten, but God forbid I will never beat my own child. I may beat somebody else's, for example, if he spits in my wife's face, like we talked about, right?
There are boundaries everywhere,
Sure.
and there should be.
What's the boundary? I don't particularly care, nor do I filter between men and women. For example, as a in-your-face sort of a thing, I said more than once that I beat women. I don't beat women just because they're weaker than me physically and they cannot protect themselves from me. I beat women in a sense that I don't filter. Are you a woman or are you not? If you did something, if you produced a problem that deserves to be solved with violence, that's it, regardless of anything.
I really enjoyed when you touch on women. I will interrupt a little bit. That I think Bill Burr, comedian, get up on this, touch a little bit on this topic, that women don't really have a lot of physical confirmation.
Yes.
Like they can be quite an assholes. They can do a lot, like in the sense that they can light your shit on fire, they can scrap your car, and then
Only in America.
yeah, so that society is a little bit different than ours, but the idea is that they can get away with it. And like he said, like they don't have even decency to run away. Like they will light their shit on fire and say, hey, I did this shit, look at it.
Because you, the one that got his shit lit on fire, do nothing about
Yeah.
it.
So basically,
So it's not the woman that's the problem.
yeah. but as socially they got used to that, women are basically untouched. If there's domestic violence, men gets blamed on and usually divorced, gets to pay, goes to jail or something like that. And I really enjoyed this speech, like, as a man, let's just say you get in the bar fight or someone, you crack a jar or something like that. And then on the way back home, you think about, well, maybe I shouldn't say the last thing, it got escalated from here, and that where was the problem, conflict. You think about it. When you have physical interaction, when there are direct consequences. We touch on it back again. So with women, with some women, I think there's a lot of smart women that understand that everything has consequences, same as men, it doesn't matter. But in our society, maybe women are less touched upon. What do you think?
In our society, weakness is perceived as strength. Henceforth, men shy from physical violence towards weaker people, specifically women, because not that anything else is going to happen, but you're going to get the cops called on you.
Yeah.
That is a price I'm willing to pay 20-fold every time. Everybody should. Like, pretend this, right? Civil unrest.
Yeah.
1940s Germany, right? Gestapo, secret police. There will not be enough police in the world to stop every able-bodied person if there's a civil war.
Yeah.
So the equation is already solved. We can do whatever the hell we desire as a people. The government is inconsequential. What's a government? What sort of an impact does it have in your daily life? Probably not much. You just pay it off, like tax on your vehicle, tax on your house, just to like shoo it away as a bad smell. And off of that, there is no government. We're talking here as civilized men, not because of police. We're talking about it as civilized men. There's no reason to do violence towards one another because we care enough of the dialogue and of our own and our companions' well-being to not do something stupid, right? Consequences.
Yeah.
So there is no space for police. Yet, out in public, everybody is dependent on it.
So, and what is your opinion on protecting the weak? Let's just say man is not a courageous man who thinks for himself and only acts in violence when it's need to be, but he's a weak man and he strives on beating up using the weaker of him. So, and in that place the police interferes, right?
I don't think they should. I think that men like me should. For example, I've been with several women that were sexually abused, raped and abducted and all of that horrible, horrible things, right? Police is a mop-up service. The people that do such crimes shouldn't be considered criminals. They should be considered as mental patients. You either have a reason or you're ill and you cannot think of it.
So it's impulsive, like not even thinking.
Yeah, it's not a crime at that point, it's an ailment.
Yeah.
And regardless of either one or the other, the person shouldn't be frightful of police action because, as I've said, they're mop-up service, they're janitors. They should be afraid of men like me. More likely than not, you as well. Brothers and sisters and fathers and co-workers and neighbors. And yet they are not. Why? Because there's no direct action. Because suddenly men are neutered. It's not cool to be hyper-masculine and hyper-violent. I'm not the biggest guy in the world by any stretch of imagination. Yet, I produce more stress in others than the 200-kilo bodybuilder. Why? Because he will do not upon any problem.
Well, that's the thing. You touch on quite interesting topic. Like, is the muscular mass Like I'm quite skinny in compared to you. Like even to more guys, I'm quite skinny. But is it your muscle mass or your, what do you say, like mental mass?
Yeah.
What do you bring on the table? What do you radiate? And how do you appear to person?
Prior, we touched upon usefulness of people.
Yeah.
What sort of work may you do? I may cut a tree down. I may run down an animal like Hadza in the savannah, right?
Yeah.
I can dig a drainage ditch by hand. I can do physical work. Plus, on top of that, I have some skill and some knowledge in close quarters, hand-to-hand combat and weapons and such. So I can do more things. I can be useful in more fields. Usefulness is what matters.
Yeah.
For example, somebody gets hurt, like I said, women get raped and abducted and all of that. Men get the same. So you, as a person, I do believe everybody is obligated to help one another. Truly love your neighbor. I'm not a Christian man.
We have a saying, basically, where I came from.
Yeah.
Good neighbor is better than a relative. Because
How so?
a relative is like, it can be 100 kilometers away. You may not speak with it or something.
Yeah.
But the neighbor is next to you 24/7.
Yeah.
It lives next to you.
Yes.
So a good neighbor is better than a relative.
I sort of see coming from the same social construct as you, same country, right? I understand why this is it, yet I think it's absurdly disgraceful and distasteful, and it should not be. For example, I only have 2 friends. I'm almost 30 years old. I only have 2 friends in my life, and they are both from when I was 7. Whatever happens, if I receive a phone call from them or some sort of information that they need my help, truly, badly need my own help, I already know what sort of a help it is. If they need help washing dishes, they ain't gonna call me. If they need the sort of problem solved that nobody else can, they'll call upon me. And I'll drop everything, whatever I'm doing. My wedding day, I'll drop everything and take off running. Because they need it. And I'm the one that may help them. And the only one.
You touch upon friends, and I want to touch upon the 4th shot.
Let's go.
And I have a question for you about friends. Because our social circle, our friends, are people we associate with, is very important for everyone. So you touch upon really, what do you say, deep topic. Our friends, people we associate with, people we spend time with, people that, as you said, you would do anything for them, like in some boundaries, but
not as much as one would think.
Yeah, but in that sense, like when people say, I have a lot of friends, do they? Or do they know a lot of friends? I can say I have one good friend, and we meet like once a year. We basically don't hang out, like for some people that might seem crazy. Like for some people, friends are that you spend around, spend time with, you message all the time, you keep in touch. And for me, I have one friend that we still keep in touch, and that's the person that I can meet after a year, and we will talk like it was like few days before we met.
Yes.
Someone you connect a lot to. So you said you have 2 friends, right?
Yes.
That isn't like surprising for me, because I think as you associate friends, what you call friends is the term that all of us should think about. What you can call in the urge of emergency that will respond in slightless manner.
Yes.
And when you start to think about it, like, will a lot of friends will drop everything for you?
Well, it's a question of semantics at this point. What's a friend?
Yeah, so that's basically the logistic I want to discuss, because we take friends like the word friends. Like I don't like the word love, for
Not
example,
why.
because it's a bit stupid. Like I love my parents, and I don't have a girlfriend right now, but I used to have, and I used to love my girlfriend. That love isn't the same, but it's the same word. I love a dog, I love a cat, but all of that love is totally different in all the aspects.
Yes.
So the word love gets a little bit devalued in what means to love.
Yes.
So with friends, as we spoke upon, real friend, I think, is someone you can call in the middle of the night with emergency or something,
Yes.
and they will come.
Yes.
And I think when we speak that we have a lot of friends, I think we know a lot of people. We associate with a lot of people. We take in our social circle a lot of people. But we don't bond these meaningful, bonds, basically, with the people that we associate and call friends.
I think many words get devalued through overuse.
Yeah.
Facebook friend, Instagram friend, work friend, this friend, other friend.
Yeah.
My first love, second love, third, fourth, and so on, so on. Like, somebody does something mean to someone else and they go, oh, I'll kill you. Oh, I'll do this and that. Words are like mathematical equations. Specific words carry specific meaning. If the specific meaning is not intended, do not use the word. I say to my fiance the word love rarely, but when I do, I mean it, and it binds the sentence. It's supposed to be there right then and there and nowhere else.
Yes.
I don't go, oh, I love you every time I get up out of bed in the morning to go to work.
It's basically like everything falls under the same law. Like if we have money, we print out a lot of more money, it devalues, inflation.
Yes.
So if we use a sentence friend, and we use, like you said, work friend,
Yes.
and it devalues everything.
Yes.
So everything is basically in our control.
Absolutely. Everything is in our control. We can literally stop the world from turning. Perhaps not literally. I'm not a physicist, but I'm convinced we can come up with something damn close.
So our evaluation of things, of people, of words, really think about words, how we evaluate what we speak, what we say, what kind of message we want to project.
See, one thing is talking with somebody self-aware like you, like me, and talking with somebody that is not, somebody that's a product of the environment, and yet it does not realize it's so.
So I think we all of us are product of environment, but we chose environment.
Not necessarily. For example, the product of the environment, the person I spoke of, is a product of the environment, and it is a thing of the environment, as call it an ecosystem, right? Still an animal in it, but the animal, the monkey, does not understand its bond to everything else. We are better, we do, hence the philosophy, right?
So
philosophy, the word means lover of wisdom.
That's an interesting idea, but what I meant was basically I grew up in the farm.
Yes.
I grew up to be a farmer. I was, like you say, growing up to be a farmer.
Yes.
I grew up and my father pushed me to be a farmer.
Yes.
That is the environment I grew up.
Yes.
But I chose to learn things.
Yes.
I chose to search things.
Yes.
I searched to find people, find books, and find everything.
Yes.
So in my opinion, I chose the environment I'm in. I chose to call you here.
Yes.
I chose to speak with you.
Yes.
And all of that, I chose the environment. I like the expression that you can't choose to live without problems. You were born, you're alive, you have problems, but you can choose what kind of problems you have.
True.
So I chose the environment that got me here. I chose to get the studio to film this on and call you here. So how much effect do you think that does on the person?
I think it's a consequence, not the actual problem. Sort of implies it's bad. It's not. It's not the root cause. It's a symptom. The root cause was you questioning things. Perhaps my father is a farmer. Perhaps I should not be one. Maybe I have a different path in life.
Not really.
No?
I am, we spoke a little bit about the personality types.
Yes.
And I am INFJ. But the thing is that when I was little, as in the last year, remarkably, I reflected a lot of things that I thought about the child.
Yeah.
And I was in the farm and I had this like a dream, a vision, you can call whatever, that I wasn't part of it.
Yeah.
I had the like a you can call whatever, like a dream or something that in the birdhouse when I was born,
Yeah.
they mixed up me with another baby and I got here to the farm
Yeah.
where I should be somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that basically was the root of unconscious, basically root that I shouldn't be in here.
Yeah.
I should be something great. I will get to be a millionaire. I will get somewhere and I will manifest more.
Yeah.
That was my root of what you say, motivation, anything to get out of that place.
Pride, ego.
I don't know, like I was at that vision, I don't know, I was like 5, 6, but I got that like, I'm not here. I'm not at the place where I should be.
I don't think there is such a thing as faith. For myself, I truly do believe I am the smith of my own faith. I am the one that forges it. And I had many experiments throughout my life that proved it. There is very little I cannot change. Very little meaning I haven't yet found I cannot change something, right? Everything is about the ego. Ego gets a bad rap, not in a Freudian sense,
Yeah.
but ego in what is the thing that's me. I've grew up in the city, saw nothing but concrete and asphalt. And yet my goal for many years is farm life. That's the thing I want. You spoke of growing on a farm, hunting, all of that. That's the thing I want. I want because I didn't have it, but now I want because I already tasted the other sort of life.
Yeah.
I both tasted poverty and riches. And I want that for a very specific reason. I'm not gonna go into this, but there's a specific reason. It's not hippies and eco-friendliness. There's a point to it. Everybody finds a point that fits them. For example, you may want to be a singer or whatnot. I want that. But we're already far on the path of how people think, and prior to everything, first off, you need to be self-aware. You need to have pride in yourself. You need to feel self-worth, so you may impact the environment.
So I will want to cut in a little bit on this because I really enjoyed the Jordan Peterson philosophy. Because like some young men come to the psychologist, right?
Yes.
And they said, I'm worthless, I don't do a lot, or I'm an alcoholic. And what our society goes into that, you're okay the way you are. And Jordan Peterson is like, I see the opposite. Mm-hmm. You're not the way you are.
Yes.
That's not the right way. You can be way better.
Yes.
And is accepting yourself and what do you call it, acceptable way of life. I don't accept myself. I think this is nothing. This place, the studio, it's basically nothing. I can achieve way more and I'm harder on myself than that anyone can be on me.
True.
And that is one of way of thinking, is that if you reach something or do you put a medal on it? Like that's achievement, you did a lot, like that's great? Or you just go, yeah, that isn't in my, what you can do. That's just one part of it.
I've mentioned several times philosophy. And the school I fall into is Stoicism.
Yeah.
They speak of there is no such thing as bad emotions. Everything comes from you. Same thing with good emotions. I'm a blacksmith. I make things out of steel. I have my own workshop. I make something. It produces a tremendous sense of self-fulfillment for me.
So you like creating things with your arms, with your intelligence and everything.
Blacksmithing gives me a tremendous sense of self-fulfillment, right? But that is not the bed of laurels I may fall asleep upon. It's a step that may further me along.
In the right direction.
Precisely in the direction that I want, which is to become as useful as possible in every fashion.
I think that's a great way to look at it. What do you want to do? Well, like, what do you want to create with your life?
Well, what I want is value that stays when I'm gone. For example, problem solving. Something breaks. I need to know how to fix it. As a child, I thought of that. That's a direct thing I can influence my environment with. Fighting, I need to learn how to fight because first off, I don't want to get beaten up. Second off, I need to protect the others that cannot do so. Direct way to influence my environment, right? I want to live in the farm, as I've stated. Same thing, I'm directly influencing my environment. The world may go to hell. No power, no drinking water in the cities. But me, I'll be okay. I can be dropped off in the woods like this as I'm sitting here. I'll be okay. That is, in my mind, the core, first off of which I may expand. I can paint, I can do anything else, provided this core stays.
That is the power. What you can do without anything, without anyone's, like, let's say, influence, you're on your own.
Yes.
And what you can do. So you're not on your own. I'm with you, and I'm with you on our last 50 shots. So I can see, like, from the movies, like Americans got, like, from the second stop, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. I think you heard it.
I did.
So this is our fifth Mississippi, our final shot, and it will come with the final interesting topic and idea that I'm really interested on what you have to say upon it. Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers. Smells like cologne. Sugary cologne.
I had one friend that drinks a shot, and he said he drinks like Russian. He drinks a shot and then just smells the bread and doesn't eat anything. And I'm like, what the fuck? So, the last topic. I come up on it today.
Yes.
And we touch up on a lot of, like, society, people, how we behave and everything. And this is a little bit like into your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, what happens when you die? Do you have a sense of afterlife? Do you have a sense of what you leave is your legacy? Like, do you think, like, this is like basically all in one? What happens when you die?
Simply put, nothing. Nothing was prior you were born, nothing will happen. Although in an overly romanticized way. I fancy myself to be an Odinist, meaning belief in Valhalla and all of that. And it's not, in my mind, of warrior culture, it's of reputation. Being the best possible at whatever it is that you do. If you make boats, by God, be the best damn boat builder anywhere. If you're a warrior, same thing. If you're a farmer, same thing. That's the thing that I liked about it. Provided you are the best possible at whatever it is that you're doing, Valkyries will come down and you will join Odin in his halls.
The legacy.
Precisely. You need to leave something. You need to be as useful as possible so people remember you. So there's songs about you and all of that.
So in the biological sense, you're dead and that's it.
Yes.
You're gone.
I'd like to die. It's judicially close to impossible here in our country, but I would like to die, just get wrapped in some cotton or linen or something easily degradable, not treated by chemicals, and buried out in the woods. If it so happens that an animal digs me up and eats part of my corpse, that's part of nature. That's part of life. Life isn't what I have. Life is everything.
So when it comes to afterlife,
Yes.
what's your opinion? It is none, it's just our human construct?
I think we don't have enough proof. For example, what's quantum entanglement? Nobody knows. More than likely it is, but nobody knows. We kind of assume, but we don't know.
Yeah, so
My stance is that.
those are the things I like to touch upon.
Yes.
So there was a lot of civilizations before us, right? Romans, Greeks, whatever.
Yeah.
All of the civilizations before us believed in afterlife. In Egypt, they would morphify, they would put gold and everything for the afterlife. A lot of civilizations, one after another, believe in afterlife. And I don't choose to think that civilizations before us are dumber. People think that, as we spoke, like we have electricity, we have automatic weapons, we have baseball caps and we're the shit. But we're not. So they found a lot of Greek, like really old Greek computer, basically. Mechanic computer that you push in the information.
And mechanism.
Yeah, it was really precise, and even our engineers look at it like, how did they made it that long? So I think they were quite intelligent. The Egypt pyramids are really precise to the real north, to the stars. And if you study history even bad enough, you will see that all of the civilization believe in afterlife. But when it comes to industrial age, we started to think of humans like electric engines, let's just say. It broke down, it died, it doesn't exist. And I think in biological sense and like in real communication, I believe in two afterlives. One is biological, that is our children. We give our genetic DNA information to our children, and that is basically reincarnation of ourselves.
Yes.
That is reincarnation of our cell memory, the DNA. And the other part of the afterlife, you can say, you can call it whatever, is what we put out. Like what you say, like voting the best vote or whatever. Even this podcast, I can die tomorrow. Like in the job, they will change me like in a month. My family will forget after a few years. Our friends will probably forget us. But what you leave on this earth, like what do you leave? It can be video footage like this. It can be a building. It can be a statue. It can be achievements of whatever. And I usually, when I speak to people, I give an example of Steve Jobs. And we spoke a little bit on our first meet, actually, that he died in 2008, I think. But for me, he's still alive. I can see his knowledge in the interviews. I can see his company that he built upon. Of course, it's run by different people, it got whatever, but I believe into those forms of afterlife. What you leave behind, like physically, and the children and the DNA, the information, it's not even like the DNA itself like the children, but I'm speaking with you, you will catch upon a few words and you carry it with you. And you will be the part of, even if I die tomorrow, you will have some alive of me. So what's your point on those, or you don't have any?
Like the podcast you've mentioned as a form of afterlife, right? I don't think it's a right way to go about it. I don't think the fact that our dialogue is recorded is the valuable bit.
Okay, so a little bit, I will interfere. So will the person will watch it, let's just say, and I'm dead.
Yeah.
Will they know I'm dead or not?
Regardless, I don't think it matters. What I think that matters is that you had the dialogue, that you've produced critical thinking and specific equations to be solved in my own mind and I in yours. I think that is the value bit, like a concert, right?
Yeah.
There are bands that not frown upon, but ask the audience to not film and not take pictures. The event is the event for that time, in that place, and that's it. Everybody that failed or wanted not to take part, they are not. The valuable bit is the fact that it's limited.
That's really good. Actually, it's a good way to put it, because we are obsessed with taping things.
Yes.
We're obsessed with capturing it, but we never look at it, basically. And that, I think, is a great note to stop this podcast on. And this is the bit that we created for you to learn, for you to think about the world and life and people and society itself. And we spoke a lot of things, basically. Society, people, how we behave, how we interact with people and the things and situations. So thank you for watching, but most importantly, thank you, Robertas, for coming here. And I was raised that way, that, let's just say, in good manners. So if you come here, you really gave value, you give out information, and always think that there has to come something with it. So this is my symbolic gift for you, for this time and for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next episode or my video. See you later.